Okay, let's continue exploring equivalent fractions. This time, we're going to look at fractions that are equivalent to 1/3. So let's go ahead and we're going to go back to our fraction strips here. Here's our 1/2, and we want to look at 1/3. We want fractions that are going to be equal to this amount of 1/3. So I'm going to go to my fourths. Let's try fourths. And again, if I look at the denominator, I know that fourths are going to be smaller pieces than thirds. Remember, the larger the denominator, the smaller the piece. I don't think I'm going to get this to equal, but I'm going to try it anyway. And I don't look at that 1/4, 2/4. 1/4 isn't enough. 2/4 is too large. So we're going to go on. Let's see if we can try fifths. Do you think it's going to work? You did. Okay, let's see. Here's our 1/5, and let's go with 2/5. And 2/5 is still a little bit too big. 1/5 isn't enough, and 2/5 is too large. Okay, man, we got to go all the way to 6. Oh my goodness. Okay, here's 6. 1/6. 2/6. We finally did it. We found a match. So we know that 1/3 is equivalent to 1/6. Let's try to find another one. All right, we're going to go all the way down here to eighths. Oh my. Okay, let's see. Is eighths going to fit? Let me get my pieces here. That's 1/8. I'm going to count it as I go. 2/8. It's looking close. And 3/8 is, oh, look how close it is. It's a tiny bit too big, though. It is not the same amount. My eighths do not work. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to try tenths. Let's try it. 1/10. 2/10. Oh, this is looking good. 3/10 is not enough. Look how close it is. Okay, let's try 4/10. 4/10 is too much. I wonder if any of these are going to work. All right, our last hope is 12ths. Do we think that 12ths are going to work? That is the question. We're going to try. Let's count it as we go. 1/12. 2/12. This is looking good. 3/12. 4/12. We found something. We found 12ths. Now, I don't know if there are some others that might have fit in there. Maybe if we had ninths, we could have tried those, but we didn't have them. So we could only try the ones that we had, but we did find 12ths and we did find 6ths. Let's go back and take a look. So we know that 1/3 is equivalent to 2/6 because it takes 2/6 to equal 1/3. And look at that, ninths does work. If we have 1/9, 2/9, 3/9, 3/9 would equal 1/3. All right. Now I want you to think about those denominators again. And if you remember from halves, all of our denominators that worked with halves were even. But take a look at thirds. We have 6, which is even. 6 is even. And we also have ninths. And 9 is odd. So those would be odd numbers. So I do notice something, though, about my 3s. If you notice, 3 times 2 would give me 6. 3 times 3 would give me 9. Wow, I am seeing patterns. Think about skip counting. Think about skip counting by 3s. I would go 3, 6, 9, 12. Now let's go back for a second. Do you remember when we were over here, 12s worked? Our 12s, we could find an equivalent fraction. It was 4/12 was equivalent to 1/3. So look at those patterns. Look how our multiplication, our skip counting fits together even with our fractions. It's pretty interesting with numbers. So we're going to continue thinking about fractional amounts. Now, 1/2 and 1/3 were unit fractions. It was just one piece. But we can do equivalent fractions with other fractional amounts. So let's explore a little bit finding a fraction that's equivalent to 2/3. So that would be 1/3, 2/3. It would be two of my pieces. So go ahead and we're going to go back here. And if you have your fraction strips or if you're following along on the computer, you can use the online pieces. I need 1/3, 2/3. So can I find another fraction that would be equal to 2 of my thirds? Well, we know, well, let's try fourths. We know that fourths didn't work before. So let's see if it'll work this time. Nope. Fourths, not equal. Do you want to try fifths? Okay, you can try fifths. Maybe it's looking close. What do you think? Nope. Here's my 2/3 up here. Fifths is, let's get our fourths out the way. Fifths is too large. Oh, that's just terrible. I thought our fifths might work. Okay. But we know that sixths, they work with thirds. So I think they're going to work. Let's try it. 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6. We found it. One of the equivalent fractions would be 4/6. Now there's more equivalent fractions, but that's one. Let's go back and take a look. If we have 2/3, so we have 3 equal parts, 1, 2, 3, and we shaded in 2 of them, that would be 2/3. One fraction that is equivalent to that would be 4/6. So if I broke that into 6, it would take 4/6 to equal my 2/3. It would take 6/9 to equal my 2/3. That would be another equivalent fraction. I hope as you're going, you're starting to see some connections with the numbers. When you get into our fraction module next week, we're going to be using our multiplication quite a bit because we're going to take our fractional strips and bars and we're going to turn them into number lines, fractions on the number line, and you're going to be using some of those multiplication skills in there. So I'm hoping you're seeing some connections between the numbers. Okay, so let's just review what we learned about our equivalent fractions. We know that fractional amounts can have equivalent fractions. That is when they have the same value, even though the pieces may look different. They are fractions that are going to name the same amount or part. And this is just a reminder of our example. Here's 1/2 of the circle. And if we divided that same circle into fourths, it would take 2/4 to equal that amount. And if we divided that circle into eighths, it would take 4/8 to equal that same amount as 1/2. Now, don't forget, we can also find equivalent fractions for 1/2. And if we did that, both our numerator and denominator are going to be the same number. So if we wanted to represent 1/2, we would have to have 1/2, 2/2, 2/2 to be equivalent to 1/2. All right, so now you're going to go on and you're going to work on your lesson notes for Module 21. And if you come into any problems that you're not sure about, go ahead and rewatch the videos and it may help you to solve those questions.